So let's go over. Hello and welcome. Hello, John. Don.
Hi.
I think I just called you John, like a DJ kind of thing going on there. Sorry. If you're just joining us, we're not actually expecting anybody to see us for the next few minutes. We're expecting people to be catching up. So this is kind of like the pre-stream.
I'm watching a Twitch ad anyway, apparently. So.
Okay. Yeah, let me see what I've got going on here. Okay, no, I seem to be live. Woohoo! Okay, no, Ned.
Yeah, I see your screen. Yep.
It's been suggested that at some point in the future we try YouTube streaming for gaming. It will sort of be a better option. But we'll see.
Yeah, perhaps. I don't know.
It's worth.
I mean, you already have an audience on Twitch too, so.
Yeah.
At the moment, I think it's the best, maybe, of both worlds, in that we stream on Twitch and interact with the chat, but then you upload to YouTube. So.
Yeah, we can try maybe one day for a session.
Maybe a practice session would be better.
Yeah. So we'll see. Okay, so I'm getting a bit of drop. I seem to be dropping. All right, good. I'm going to close that. You're still here, aren't you? Yes.
Yep, me.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's just that when I get scared when I close the little box on the top of Skype that I'm going to cut the conversation. So I've got my glasses on today. My eyes are tired. All that mapping I've been doing, hours and hours and hours of mapping.
And your map is so boxy still. I don't understand, fellow.
Boxville. There we go. We've just figured out what we're going to do for the next one. All right. How do I get rid of that? I don't understand. Oh, here we go. Good. Okay. I'm dropping frames. Are you dropping frames? Is anybody dropping frames?
It seems to be okay here.
Okay.
I think the only way I would tell is the little buffering.
That's what
symbol,
I mean. Yeah,
right?
that's what I.
No,
it's
okay here.
All right, good.
Is OBS reporting in the red or anything like that?
That's a negative. It's okay. 0 drop frames. It says.
Oh well, hopefully it's just the downstream.
Yeah, must be my download going on there. All right, good. So how are we going to do? Do you want to share your screen first to get started, or are we on my screen to get started?
You could excuse me. You could start on yours if you want to. Either way, I can. I'll flip through a bunch of slides here, and one of them is just questions, so it'll be a dialogue. But if you want to show what we ended up with last week, or what you ended up with at your practice sessions, just to quickly visually orient people. We're just building dev textured boxes at the moment, just to kind of show this is we didn't get very far, obviously. Most of it was set up last session. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I've opened up Hammer with the last file that I created. I think it might be a good idea if I run through the changes, since I know you've seen the practice sessions, but perhaps people wouldn't have watched the practice sessions. So if we recap on what I've done at some point, not necessarily first. So if they've only seen the last of the tutoring session, it'll be like a big jump to what they've. Still a boxy jump, I accept that, but it's still a big jump. So, should we start?
Yeah. You want me to share my screen to you now?
Okay.
So you have it?
Let me switch over to you. Okay. Go.
I have to click start again. Yes.
Learned
that from last time.
There we go. Right. How do I full screen? Full screen. Alt-Enter. I should remember that. Okay. Oh, actually, I'm probably covering up your Don screen now.
You might want to move your camera up just maybe above that.
That is seen. I'm not sure I can move it now. It's like, oh yeah, I can. All right. Good. Let's hope that's okay. All right, good. And then Alt-Enter. That was it, wasn't it? Alt-Enter. Good. Okay, so what we can do is we can just give it 1 second to have a break for me to edit out this part, and we can start properly, shall we?
Yeah, you're still covering up the top of the graphic there. I can make it smaller, maybe. If you.
No, it's okay. I can whip back in.
Just another, not even 50% of the height of the screen there.
How's that? I'm stuck on my little netbook. I'm completely stuck. I should plug in, I suppose.
Yeah, it's fine.
Is that okay?
Yep.
That won't cut off anything in Hammer, will it? Well, if it does, I'll have to move it again.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
If we're watching your screen, maybe it's worth moving it down. So I know it's a pain in the butt. Maybe, I don't know if there's a way to, I guess you have to set it up as two different things in OBS if you want to easily move it. So
Yeah, I'll just leave it there for now.
okay. Yeah, we won't get to that. Probably midway through the session, it might be in the way. So
Okay,
we'll deal with it then.
all right. Okay, so I'm just reloading. We've lost one viewer already. Once it comes back up for me, we'll start.
Hey, Martin, how's it going? And Irby, hey.
Yeah, I can't see anybody. I've just reloaded. Hi, everybody.
And Niker's here too, looks like. Going for that Freeman look here.
Yeah, exactly.
You need the crowbar in the background again, right?
Yeah, I got it actually. It's over there. I could just go and fetch it. All right, good. Okay then. +10 for intelligence. Yeah, looking and being intelligent are two different things, though, aren't they? So, shall we? We'll count down. We'll very quickly. I'll have a look at OBS because that should tell me how long I've been on live. That's 7 minutes. All right, good. So in 7:30, that will give me something to work with. Okay, so hi Kingster. So in 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to another Level Design Academy tutoring session. I'm Philip. Hi everybody, and joining me today is Don. Hi Don.
Hi, how's it going?
Yeah, good, thanks. Wish that I had more time to practice the things, but that's always the case with students. I'm a professional teacher and my students never practice enough or use what they're supposed to do. So I know exactly.
Oh, so I'm not the only person cursing out the students.
No, exactly. No,
no, I watched your practice sessions and I think it was just about right. In other words, I think by the end of the second session, you were just about reaching the point where you were obviously limited by what we covered in the first one. So I think it was, and everything we covered in the first one, you'll reuse in every other map that you do. So you'll be constantly practicing what we did.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So for those viewers who haven't seen the practice sessions, we finished the very first one with my trying to compile a map, and we had a very small problem which was due to my antivirus. It was stopping one of the programs from working, but that's all working perfectly now. So if you followed our session, then you should be able to do everything we did. We did the basics. We learned how to open Hammer, install Hammer, what files you need. Then we talked about the general idea of what is mapping, what are engines, what do they do, and then we started making a very simple room. And when I say very simple, it was a box. It was a box with a light and the player, and that's it, nothing else. And then my practice sessions were taking that a little bit further. Anything that you'd like to sort of say about the first tutoring session, Don?
No, I actually have a couple of slides here where I review the basics of what to remember from the interface and shortcuts, and yeah, so I'll sort of cover that as we go through. Okay,
all right. Should we start with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Let me get back on my screen here. Oh yeah, first, let's actually start with any specific questions you had from your.
Yeah, I do actually, and I don't know whether we need to go to my screen. I'm going to switch back to my screen if that's okay. In the sense of I'm going to go back to Hammer.
Sure.
The first question I've got is, what do the different colours in 2D mean?
Absolutely nothing.
Okay, so
as far as I know, they're just randomly assigned, so you can get a slight visual difference between everything.
Okay.
Unless somebody in the chat has any insight, I've never discovered any any rhyme or reason for the colors of the brushes.
Yeah.
Now the entities have specific colors.
Okay.
That kind of match, like the purple. well, that's a bad example, perhaps, because those are all lights. But you'll see other entities are just represented by boxes, and they don't have like a light bulb icon or anything like that to represent them in the 3D view. So they just look like a box colored the same as their 2D.
Okay.
Box.
So is the G-Man, for example, the player, always that green box?
The player is, yes. And
Yes.
and if we didn't copy our models directory over to Hammer, like we did last week, you wouldn't see Gordon there. You would just see a green box in the
Okay.
3D view. So.
Okay. Just getting a message from Martin. It's easier to make out the difference between the brushes. I understand that. What I was asking was whether that particular colour meant that it was a particular type of brush. For example, it was bigger than a certain size or it was smaller than a certain size. Obviously, if they were all the same colour, that would be impossible. But do the colours actually mean anything? That was my question.
Yeah.
And you say no. So,
No.
so
no,
if
no.
sorry.
Real quick, there is a way when we get to grouping brushes, there's a way to set the color of groups
Okay.
to a certain line color, but I don't use it that often because that confuses things even more. In my
All right.
opinion.
So if somebody were to take my files, and actually that's one thing we could make my files available if anybody was curious. Would they see exactly the same colours when they opened it up, or is it a randomly generated thing for each different user?
That's a
don't
good
know.
question. I
All right,
don't
okay.
know.
All right. It's not that important. I was just curious because it might help selecting things if different colours meant slightly different things. All right then.
Yeah, although those colors are so close, it's almost hard to describe, right? There's sort of light blue, light green, and maybe a slightly darker green. And
Yeah.
in other words, they're not using the whole rainbow. They're using a very small
Yeah.
selection of colors.
Okay. All right, question number 2 is, are there any more dev textures available? Because at this point, I mean, when I was building things, it was like it's orange or grey, and I've got like 2 areas, and I wanted to use a slightly different texture to make it clear that I've got like a little part there instead of one big part. I mean, are there any more dev textures? Is it important?
They're the ones I put in the ZHLT WAD that I customized. There are more by the same author that I used, that I grabbed some of the textures from. But I think, other than things like railings and water, they're all the same orange and gray colors. They're simply different sizes or slightly different graphics. It is straightforward to make recolorations of those and then add to your own texture wad or customize or add to the one that I supplied. But I won't be covering that today.
Okay, all right. I'm just, maybe in future I might like it, but maybe once we start to talk about texturing, it's not such an important issue. So.
Yeah, I actually find personally, I only use dev textures some of the time when I build things.
Okay.
In other words, if I have a good vision for what I want a room or corridor to look like, I'll start to look through the textures which I think would fit the best and build to those.
Okay.
If I have no idea what I want it to look like, or if I just want to rough something out, then I'll go to the dev textures. So.
Okay. All right, and that actually follows on to my next question, which is how best can I learn and improve my proportional awareness? What I was really talking about here is that when I was building my little corridors, one corridor was really narrow, and then the next one was too wide, and it was like, and what about the door width and all of those? And I suppose that if I'm using the textures that I'm expecting to use, or potentially could use in the final map, that will give me some idea as well, won't it? Like floor textures, for example.
Yeah, some of them will give you an idea. A lot of them are tiling, though, so they don't necessarily have, like, perfectly tiling, so they don't have natural boundaries in terms of width of a hallway or a room or something like that. But
Okay.
yeah, many of and the other key to remember is that textures are scalable. In other words, you can apply a texture to a wall, but if you scale it at two times its size,
Okay.
The hallway needs to be much bigger if you want to see the full texture. So honestly, in my opinion, that comes from simply experience. As we go forward, you'll be better able to gauge maybe what's too tight and what's way too large. And I think that's, that just comes with mapping. You've played tons of Half-Life maps. You could tell when a mapper is new, and you walk up to an SUV and it's 3 times Gordon's height, and you feel, well, this maybe could have used a little more attention to detail. But
Yeah.
it just comes with experience. Now the Gordon's height in the 3D view there is a pretty good representation of his actual height. So if anything, I would say this corridor is probably wide. The one we're looking at now is wide enough, but maybe not high enough.
Oh, okay.
Especially because you notice when we jump, our head almost hits the ceiling.
Okay.
And that goes back to the the sort of the scaling of units to real world, distances. It's not perfect, and I think the vertical axis is possibly a little off from the sort of forward and east and west sort of axis. So
okay, all right.
My only guidance is it'll come with experience, and be ready to raise or lower your ceilings and widen your hallways as you test maps.
Okay, all right. So just as you say, experience. I'll probably become more aware of real life proportions now that I'm focused on those things. I mean, obviously you walk into a room in real life and it's really high and you're like, oh wow, but the normal size of corridors and rooms you don't really pay much attention to unless you consciously make that effort. So all right, good. Now the next one I need to go with regard to one particular room, which was what I'm calling my green room. Now this is the room where I put 5 lights recessed into the ceiling. And what I did was I built like a square, and then I put that first, and that was the top part of the recessed ceiling. And then I sort of just built brushes all around it. And my question was, is there a better way to workflow that? Is there a way to sort of build a solid brush and then cut something out? Because that would have saved me like a lot of time.
Yeah, we'll actually cover that today. It's called carving.
Okay.
However, it will come with dire warnings, which I will show you. So, yeah.
All right.
But yes, you can carve. I honestly don't carve that often.
Okay.
And the way I would have sped up the development of that ceiling is, and I'm not sure if you did this, but build one alcove, copy to the other 4, and then build the remaining brushes. I mean, it's still sort of.
I can't remember if I did that.
It's still kind of grunt work, It's still kind of I just have to slog through all 5 recesses or however many you have.
Yeah.
But there's not. It wouldn't. Even carving wouldn't speed things up that much. But I'll show you the tools so you'll become familiar with it.
All right. Well, I mean, if you feel that I should avoid carving, then I'm happy. I'm looking at the chat and it's like, never carve. I mean, I don't want to learn cheap, easy ways. I mean, if the way I did it was more or less okay, it was a little bit laborious and it was, repetitious, then fine, I'm okay with that. So I'll leave that up to you. If you want to, if you want me to learn it, I'll learn it. If not, no problem. All right, and the last question is, have you tried Hammer 3.5.2? Because I was on Game Banana by accident. Well, not by accident, but I was looking for something and I found this Hammer 3.5.2 and I was like, oh, I wonder if Don knows about this. So
I know about it. There's a 3.5.3, I think.
Oh, okay.
I don't. Do you remember what the differences are? I thought they just added floating points or something.
Oh, crikey. I mean, I wouldn't even... Yeah.
So those are not official Valve releases. Not to say they're not recommended, but I don't have any need to use them in my mapping.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's fine. Those were my questions. So...
Okay.
We'll switch over.
Yeah, if you want to flip back to me and I'll continue on.
There we go.
So yeah, first just want to give you a quick review, which you've sort of picked up and remembered as you were going through these practice sessions of the key shortcuts in the interface in Hammer, because I use these all the time, and I suspect most people do too.
Okay.
Remember, the mouse, in any 2D view, the mouse wheel will zoom in and out.
Zoom in and out, yeah.
Yeah. Now, and if you hold control, it'll zoom all 3 2D views at the same time.
I'd forgotten about that one. Okay.
Yeah, I don't actually use it that often. I sort of, because it's quick enough with the mouse wheel, if I need to zoom another view, I'll just flip to it and spin the mouse wheel. So,
yeah, okay.
It's possibly not that useful. Z toggles the 3D, being able to move around the 3D view.
Yep.
On and off. Space allows you to drag the 2D view, just like this is a common shortcut, like for example, Photoshop uses the same thing.
Okay.
If you're on the pointer tool in Photoshop and you hold space, it allows you to drag the view around in
Okay.
So
The interesting thing was when Darren, aka Custom Gamer Daz, was watching this, he didn't know that one, and it was like, oh my god, it blew his mind. He said, so yeah, I suppose you get used to what you do, and then if you don't know about something, it's new for you. So
yeah, I mean, unless people were watching tutorials or combing through the Hammer document, the help file, they probably wouldn't know this. And honestly, I didn't know about the space to drag the 2D view until probably about maybe midway through my mapping career. So
okay.
late 2006, 2007, I would guess. So, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, Control E. If you have a selection, entity or brush or set, it'll censor the 2D views.
Yeah, I misunderstood you the first time when you explained that. I thought it centered the whole of your creation, but it doesn't. You're right. It centers on the thing that you selected,
right?
And that sort of confused me at first.
Well, that helps, especially as your maps get complex and you want to try to find a certain entity in the 2D views that you can see in the 3D view.
Yeah,
I find that probably the most helpful.
Okay.
Shift and drag will copy brushes or entities. You can also, I think on the next page I go through the common Windows shortcuts. You can also use Control C and Control V to copy and paste. And I think they're available in the right-click menu as well, copy and paste. So Control allows us to select multiple things. I think you did that many times to try to set properties of your lights. Yeah.
Yes, I did. Okay.
And there's another way to select multiple too, which is dragging a border around it, and I'll cover that later on. Too.
Okay.
So, and yeah, these are the common Windows shortcuts that keyboard shortcuts that Hammer obeys. Copy paste. I don't use cut that often because you can just. I should actually put delete in here too. The delete key will delete anything that's highlighted.
Okay.
Which you can get back with Control Z undo, which is often the case.
And you say, you say between two maps. You mean if you've got like two maps open,
right? In the same Hammer Hammer instance. So if you don't, the problem is if you have two Hammer instances open, I don't think you can copy and paste between those two. But if you simply minimize what you're working on, open a new map.
Between those,
you could do the same thing. You can cascade the windows, or you can just simply flip between them. You can copy and paste from one map to the other. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and recommendations, which I covered, I kind of want to reinforce to anybody that's new to Hammer. It does not have an autosave.
Yeah.
And watching, scanning through our practice, or not our practice session, but our first lesson. Mm-hmm. The one thing I would have done, because we worked on that map for probably 30 to 45 minutes before we saved, is I would have saved, maybe given it a name right away or within the first 10 minutes. Hammer has been pretty stable for me, knock on wood, but historically it crashes, occasionally. So, and if it crashes, you lose everything until your last up to your last save point. So,
right. Okay.
I would recommend saving it. As you remember it. A major change, definitely save, and also increment your file names frequently too. In other words, which you were doing well on the practice session. You were going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever system makes sense for you and you can remember.
Okay.
That way you can always have a fallback. So even if your RMF gets corrupted for whatever reason, you can go back to your previously named version. Go from 7 to 6, for example, and hopefully it won't be too far back. It may just be a little bit of lost work for you.
Okay.
Yeah. No spaces or capital letters in your map name, and if you can, back up your maps folder frequently to things like Dropbox or Google Drive or SyncBack. There's a whole bunch of tools just to back it up somewhere. Online, doesn't matter. Somewhere else on your hard drive, even burn a CD. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's just recommended. So.
Okay. Does that get corrupted often?
No. But you never know.
Yeah,
I lost a hard drive once and lost all my games and maps, but I had backups.
Okay.
So, it's just if you want to keep what you're working, for practice maps, like so far what we've done. I hate to say it, Philip, but that's probably not going to be your final map. So, recreating that wouldn't be that much work. Okay, but you've made They Hunger 2, 4, and you want to back it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
you get my point.
I do. Yes. All right, good.
Yeah, so today we're gonna work more on brush manipulation and making things beyond blocks.
Okay.
So we're not going to get into things like texturing yet, or lighting. Those will come later.
Okay.
And I think this is one of the better fundamentals because it gives you more tools simply to lay out your architecture. And I noticed you were almost kind of butting up against things I was going to show you in this lesson.
Okay.
During your practice sessions.
All right, perfect.
Quick review of what we actually covered last week. Obviously, the selection tool lets you select things in the 3D view or 2D views. The entity tool, the light bulb, allows you to place the point entities. Lights, player starts. It'll end up being things like weapons, sounds, enemies, things like that.
Okay.
And the block tool is our brush creation tool.
Why is
And
it?
it's not.
Sorry. Why is it not called the brush tool?
It should be called the brush tool.
Okay.
That's a good question. Because actually today we're going to create things that aren't blocks with that block tool. So
okay.
it's possible I actually grabbed the wrong. If you hover over it in Hammer, does it actually name the block tool? I think it is. That's why I typed that text there. But it should be called brush creation tool or brush tool. Yes.
Let me see. Block tool. Yes.
Yeah, it is block tool. So yeah, it is misnamed in Hammer.
Okay.
I'll write to Valve and have them fix it.
All right.
And this is what we'll cover today. I think I promised to show you the apply current texture button last week, and we never got to it. So this is a quick way. This is, again, not used very often, but it applies the same texture to all sides of whatever you currently have selected.
Okay.
So I noticed during your practice sessions, you often had a different texture than what you actually wanted when you created the brush. Didn't notice it till later. This would let you fix that without deleting and going back.
Okay. All right.
When we get to texturing, the one above that, the green cube there, is the actual apply texture to face button, which is probably the most used, texturing tool here.
Okay.
The clipping tool looks like sort of I think it's supposed to be a block with sort of a face or a corner shaved off it.
Piece of cheese.
Yeah,
Somebody
exactly.
slapped a piece of cheese on it. All right.
The clipping tool will be one of the most useful tools for brush customization and cutting. Let's
And
say.
that's not the same as carve.
It's not the same as carve. No.
Okay.
The one below that, vertex manipulation tool,
Oh.
over that is advanced mapping.
Don, it's like reverse psychology. Like you can't do this. As soon as we've finished, I'm clicking that button, baby.
Maybe it's reverse psychology. I want to get you in trouble. So.
Could be okay.
Okay, so in our 3D view, the brushes are the architecture. The surroundings of your map, the walls, the floors, the columns, everything like that.
Okay.
In this case, the entities are simply as points, and this is what I mean by represented by the colored blocks in the 3D view, for example. So we placed both of those last week, and we'll do it again this week. However, there are also brush entities, which I just want to introduce. We're not going to be getting into those just yet. And those are entities that are made from brushes. So anything architectural that has any kind of special property, either it's movable, like a door, or an elevator, or it's see-through, like a window or a hologram or something like that, or invisible triggers where the player triggers something to happen. Those are all what we call brush entities, just to keep that in mind.
Okay, but we're not touching those today.
No. So I want to go over what we need to understand for creation in Hammer. And this is sort of just going through a couple of terminology steps here, and then covering the requirements for brushes in Hammer. Mm-hmm. So you take any cube or any 3D object, and the sides of it are called faces. I guess I should have called AKA side here. It's a face or a plane. Cube, for example, or the block we're looking at, has 6 faces. This is pretty common knowledge, but I wanted to
absolutely.
clarify so our terminology is straight. When we talk about an edge, that's really like a corner, not one of the corner points, but the as you see, the linear edge there.
Between two faces.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Between two faces or two planes.
Okay.
And then the vertex will be the actual corner where 3 planes meet.
Okay.
So where 2 planes meet is an edge or a line, and where 3 planes meet is a vertex or a point.
Okay.
So a cube has 8 vertices, the plural of vertex. Cube has 8 vertices.
Okay.
And so going back to our vertex manipulation tool, that advanced tool, that's
it's going to move those. It's going to
exactly.
Okay. Yeah,
if you
okay.
could move those, you can start to picture what sort of advanced shapes you can start to make
Yeah.
in Hammer. So,
But you can't.
However-
Can you add? Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Can
Yeah.
you add vertices to a block? So, for example,
Yeah.
within that 8, I mean that cube has 8. I can manipulate them, but there's only so much I can do. But if I could add like a vertex in one of the edges, then I could create